Hey guys, welcome back to the positional series. And this game we're going to look at is quite an interesting one. Personally, this game helped me gain some serious knowledge and some very nice ideas in the IQP I was not aware of. I'm aware of the basic fundamentals and everything, but sometimes there are some ideas, some key moves, some key plans, some counterintuitive ideas which you are mostly not aware of. And so, as to become a better player, you must be aware of at least all the ideas. And the point should come, the challenge should be to choose which idea is to execute and when to change, and how do you proceed with any X idea, and when do you change, when are you subjective about an idea, you have to make it work anyhow, and when are you a bit I would say, open to many ideas and just play some random chess or just with some simple ideas and everything. But the first deal is to must know all the basic ideas. I mean, there should not be any idea as such which you go like, oh, I haven't seen this. This is a new one. And, oh, I never knew it. And that is why I think this game helped me a lot, because I have studied IQP a lot in the recent times, but most of my openings transit there, and I have some secret repertoires, which in the end of the day gives me nothing but just some raw IQP or symmetrical positions, where I am good to go on my own with my middle game knowledge, and I have had some pretty decent results, some losses as well, but that's how you learn. And this game particularly was very inspiring in that sense. So this game right here is the game between Passo and Nyquik. Montenegro open move, and the author in the video said that at that time he was playing many regular events, and this is one of the very classical games which he won quite effectively. And the tournament he didn't start well, but whatever, that's not the point. D4, D5, and C4, E6, knight F3, DC4. Simple stuff going on, guys. Just some standard QGA position. E3, knight F6, bishop C4. This game was from a tournament in Montenegro that I played in 2021. Yeah, exactly. I started poorly with 0.5 of 3, but I managed to recover with some wins in a row. And this is one of those wins against experienced GM Naikevich. C5, he chose the QGA, very solid line, Queen's Gambit accepted. Castle and Knight C6. The main line is A6, but this is also a very good line. And back then, I didn't have a stable repertoire against QGA. I had some ideas here and there, and when analyzing it, I was mostly focusing on D4, D5, C4, DC4, and E4 order, which is this order, guys, like very simple move order here. This order, D4, D5, C4, DC4, E4 move order. But yeah, this is how the game can transpose as well sometimes, and the reason you have to be this is and now this can transpose to Vienna, which the author also played. The game which we see Bishop C4 is the main line, but the author went for Bishop G5 and that positional sacrifice, I think, in the previous game. So Bishop C5, C5, Knight C6, and then the main line is A6, blah blah blah, which is something like A6, and you go A4, and then some sort of end game, or even Queen E2 here, and something like this is the main line. Something, if I'm not mistaken. Knight C3, Bishop E7, Queen E2. Now, personally, in this position, you know what I would do as of now. I mean, not after watching this game, indeed. As my basic approach would be to just think, how do I get my bishop into the game, and give some move like A3 with the idea of taking and playing B4 and ready to go into an end game where my bishops are placed like this. I mean, obviously I would go Queen E2, but though I would be unclear how to develop this bishop in case of he doesn't take. But mostly opponent's gonna take. But yeah, just some intuitions improve, guys. Queen E2, CD4. Sorry, ED4, and here the problem is gone. Rook at even my preparation ended around here, and I don't even have a preparation yet, which is quite wrong. But that is completely fine, because in the end of the day, you just need to play some chess, and the ideas and everything might do the job. Though opening preparation is a must and something I should work on, and I will work it on. Yeah, let's go. So Rook given my pressure over here. Knight a5, good move played by my opponent. Knight a5 is a good move, just gaining some control over the square. B6, bishop b7, just some thematic ideas. Bishop d3, b6, exactly. Black's plan is to develop and control the d5 square. Bishop f4 is an interesting move, but here the main line is queen e5 in incredible move and really tough to play it without knowing it. I remembered this move, guys, but during the course, even when I was watching it, I was also thinking like bishop f4 or something like bishop g5. But yeah, bishop f4 was mostly I was considering maybe a3. But this is the move which just skipped my mind back then. And when the author said unify, I was like, yeah, kaise bol sakta hu like that. Really tough to play without knowing it. What is the idea? To rotate the king on the king side, which is extremely important in these structures. Bishop b7, queen g3. And the point is that the queen is very useful on g3. It can give white a lot of attacking ideas. For example, king h8, queen h3 is already better. Very powerful queen. It is already plus 1.50 advantage for white. Bishop g5 coming in, knight e5 coming in. And if bishop b7, and if this move bishop d6 is the best, then you can go queen g5 again. Just trying to do something. Bishop b7, knight e5 is also an interesting option, but bishop f3, queen h4 is a very nice move with the idea of something like bishop g5, knight g5. Let's see. Bishop f3, just allowing him to ruin our pawn structure, maybe because we are going to use the g file. Bishop f3, black must capture. G f3, g6, only move. Note, guys, this is the only move. Perhaps due to bishop g5 being too strong or king h1. Let's see. Bishop g5 comes anyways. Bishop e7, bishop e4, rook c8, f4. Interesting option, interesting position, and still a lot of things can happen here. For instance, knight d5, black needs to find this. Bishop d5, bishop g5, queen g5, e d5, knight d5, and the engine can hold this with boom, king g7. Very nice move for this engine. So holdable position, but of course, white can still play it, still chances to win, with chances to win. Very interesting variation, guys. Very, very interesting variation. I would not consider it. Let me remember the line. Huh? Bishop d3 and then bishop queen e5. Bishop d6, queen g5. Not h6. Huh? Yeah, h6 will be unnecessary cooking. Bishop b7, queen h4. Very nice move. Queen h4 and then bishop f3. Kind of interesting ruining pawn structures. Very nice way to play it. Huh? Knight g5 is the idea. Takes g6, bishop e5, bishop e7, and then bishop e4. Just some random rough play, but with crazy ideas coming. Yeah, I guess d5 is coming next. Even d5 was coming here. f4 थोड़ा समझ नहीं आया. Maybe just solidifying थोड़ा आगे बढ़ रहा है. Bishop g2 पे जा सकता है. Hmm, hmm. Bishop d5, knight d5 नहीं. Bishop d5, which is quite nice again. And boom. So in the game was played bishop f4. After a lot of thinking, I chose this move, which is um sorry, yeah. Yeah, so 95, good move. After a lot of thinking, I chose this move, which is of course playable, maybe very small initiative, but after the game, I discovered that White had a fantastic positional idea, which is Rook, not this one. Rook a c1, always useful, difficult to criticize this move. Rook c8, Bishop g3, prophylaxis against Knight to d5, and it is of course equal position, just playable, but Black must choose what to do. And in this position, black chose this move, which is pawn to g6. Though pawn to knight d5 was better, the most straightforward path. Knight e4 was my idea. Knight b4, rook c8, bishop c8, followed forced. Otherwise, it allows knight to d6. Force means that is the move like, yeah, he must capture back with the bishop. So that's the point. Uh, you don't want any tension. Your rook is doing great on d1, and you cannot afford his rook capturing on c1 and your rook capturing on c1, and then knight a2 might lose a tempo. You just want to focus on attacking, and the rook is going great on d1. You just want to clear the tension and trade and get his bishop to a bad score as well. That's why rook c8 is such a logical move. Bishop a5, bishop a6. Boom. This is a good move. After this position is balanced, for example, and the position is balanced. For example, queen g1, knight c4. Quite interesting stuff, guys. Knight e g5, too many sacrifice coming up in the air, and this is already a sacrifice. Tricky move because b4 knight is vulnerable, and if g6 or h6 there is boom, knight proceeds it. Knight b2 critical, and the engine as usual finds a way. Nice way to repeat the moves. Yeah, that's just incredible in many positions. Queen d1, bishop b1 back, and yeah, engine is like repeat, karo draw, karo ghar jao, too complicated. Always. Knight d5, c8, knight, bishop b1, queen e1 is logical. Knight g5 is very interesting. Uh, and take, sacrifice. Yeah, it's like, okay, whatever. Tricky move. But my opponent thought played this move pawn to g6, which is quite logical move, guys. I mean, it looks like you're weakening the dark square, but that's not the point. It's just about the initiative. And it's like you didn't take the initiative. And it just looks so natural to me. In fact, I would be more happy to face knight d5 personally because of seeing these play knight d4 and just getting some position like this. Though g6 looks like a bad move to me. D6 looks like a fine move to me, and I think it's even solidifying more. And bishop on d3 is not doing good, and I am just not getting any plans or something. How am I going to break through h4, h5? And this move looks like good to me, and that is the reason why even till date I'm not even 2000 federated, and this guy is a grandmaster way above the rating I'm planning to achieve soon. So that's the difference. My opponent thought that since my bishop left f4, it's a good movement for g6 because no bishop h6, but this gives white some very small hopes for something. Bishop f4 was also an option. Sorry. H3 is also an option just to give a retreating square for the bishop on g3 as knight h5 might come soon. Bishop f4 was also an option even at the cost of 2 tempi. Knight d5, bishop h6, rook e8, knight e4. Playable for white, rook c1, rook c1, queen b8 with the idea of rook c8 trading. Rook c8 next, black should be fine. This is playable but not any advantage for white, but also find this very interesting move bishop a6. Now, why this move is very interesting, guys, because he is telling that after another long thing, I went for this atypical move, atypical move. I think this is that's what it was against positional principles. Exactly. Since we were taught, yes, to not exchange pieces when we have an isolated pawn. Exactly. But this was my strategy. And for me, it works out well. Also against experienced players who is 50 plus years of age. And that is why anti-positional moves are good. This is the name of the chapter. Anti-positional moves. So this is like very interesting. I mean, principally, the core principle of IQB suggests like when you're playing against an isolated pawn, trade pieces, and when you're playing with an isolated pawn, keep pieces. And even to be specific, even just I would say acknowledging this rule even more, I would say articulating it in a better way is that you do not trade pieces, but you trade minor pieces when you're playing against an isolated pawn, because the major pieces are gonna pressure the isolated pawn. And obviously, you should keep major pieces on the board. Whereas in this position, when we are white and we are playing against an isolated pawn, our kind of positional aim should be to trade more and more major pieces and to avoid trading minor pieces at all, because this will weaken our isolated pawn even more. And this is the classic example, like, wow, bro, this is going against the principles. And I have this game which is quite uh, not that high quality game, but some game which just keeps me motivated many of the times because this is a very nice game. I kind of outplayed my opponent in the IQP, very nice game. I mean, he was not higher rated at that time. I mean, obviously, I was preferred, but this is such a nice game, anyways, and I would like to solve it. So, e4, e6, d4, d5, and then this move knight c3, d e4, knight e4, and then knight f6, bishop g5, uh, French defense, and then c5, whatever, queen d3, and a typical IQP position. And I did nothing. I just did some minor pieces, and then my position was automatically in the flow. And yeah, I finished with a nice sacrifice or something. But the point is that you just need to play around the weakness, and the more minor pieces are traded, the better the position goes for the player playing against an isolated pawn. And in this case, this is such a weird move. And when I saw this idea, I was like, damn, son, that's very, very interesting, guys. Like, super interesting. And damn, son, like that, damn, son. And that is why Bishop A6. And after another long thing, I went for this atypical move. And here, the most logical move apparently would have been to play Knight d5 was played in the game. Knight king went for the second best move. The first best move would have been to play bishop a6, the most logical move and the best. Queen a6. It is not so easy to defend the a7 pawn. Knight c4 is a good move. Was the correct move, but it's not easy to find and evaluate such ideas. Knight c4 is completely equal, as you can see the manual. Queen a6, queen d7 was played, and then knight e5 was my idea. Queen b7, queen cross b7, knight cross b7, knight b5. I calculated this. My knight gets to beautiful arc squares. Knight d5. Engine confidently say that black can give up a7, rook a8, knight c6, bishop, and it is around plus 1 point, so equal position, but difficult to understand it. I mean, I doubt if you can just play a3, bring your back to knight b5. You are a healthy, very healthy pawn up, but Injan being Injan, he must have something like knight d6 or some counterplay. God knows, guys. God knows. That's why Injan is Injan. So yeah, knight e5, queen d7, knight b5, and a6. A6 was the natural move. At knight c6. Boom. Important tempo, and white is doing clearly better. Whereas Indian just wants to give up that pawn, which is not easy to play again. So bishop a6 would have been slightly better move, the most logical move, blah 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 blah. As this is big, but knight d5, knight went for the second best move, bishop b7, knight b7, and here queen a6 was my initial thought. That's what the author is saying, but I understood that black has very easy to play moves and very simple human compensation after boom, knight c3 to ruin the structure, go into a hanging pawn structure. Bc3, knight a5, getting the knight already to a typical square, knight a5, queen a7, rook 8, queen c7, bishop c7, knight c4, and this is just equal position. And author did mention in the video, like unlike that position where the rook was on a8 and he gave up that pawn. Here, even if it's a pawn up, it looks like a very logical and a very subtle compensation. As a2 pawn is very weak, the another rook is coming to c8. There is no progress you can make with the hanging pawns. Not so easy to kick away the knight as well, and everything just in a perfect coordinated position for black, and it is well for holy moly, Jesus Christ. Yep, so was my initial thought. Blah 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 blah. Knight b7, knight d5. That is so I started with knight d5 first, and not this very logical move queen c5, because this was his initial thought, which is quite obvious. So knight d5 was played first, and e d5 is a losing blunder, of course, due to rook c8, and you just lose a piece. So yeah. So queen d5 was the first one, and it's principally good as well. You are just not getting into an equal pawns, and you are making sure that the IQP weakness stays for white. Queen a6. This is the point behind move 15. Knight d5 ki jagah, and my last chance to fight for advantage. And here rook cross c1 was the best move. But this is the type of compensation that for humans it is not easy to understand after rook c1, knight d6, queen a7, knight a5, queen b6, queen cross a2. It is not unlike after the move queen a6 where black had really obvious compensation. Just play against weak pawns, blockaded pawns. Here it is different because b pawn is missed. Pieces looks fine for white, but for the engine, this is of course equal. I think that's a sarcasm. Yeah. So, queen a6 and sorry, rook c1 was the best, and yeah, there's some compensation, and apparently you have a weak pawn, and the knight is doing great on f5. Weak pawn is gonna somehow hold, but again, humans, guys. This is the point behind move 15 and my last chance to fight for an advantage. Like this is such something scary, guys. And this is why it doesn't always mean that you have a IQP and you can't trade minor pieces. I mean, it's just counterintuitive and just breaking the principles. Yeah, that's how chess is. So creative and so resourceful. B5, Black was starting to feel pressure already and played a mistake. Knight e5. was the second best move, which author chose. H4 was the best, but more Indian move. Yes, exactly. Though I wouldn't mind playing H4 in such positions, but I'm just saying I wouldn't mind. But in reality, I would focus on better plans and not this move. Knight E5. I played the second best move, more human move to get the knight on C6. Obviously, you can just see rook C1, bishop D5, rook C1, rook C1, and then queen D4. Okay, you're just gonna lose a piece on B7, and the C6 square is very big as well. So rook C1, black lost the thread of the game. Knight D6. Again, this idea of getting the knight on F5 was the best chance for black. Knight C6, knight F5. The critical line goes on with bishop E5, F6, knight E7, knight E7, bishop D6, rook C1, rook C1, rook E8, H3, and knight F5 is the best because bishop A3, queen D7, rook C6. And Indian can hold this, but white is better here for sure. Indeed, can't disagree. Queen d4 is losing due to queen b5 and queen d7 with her deadly pin. That's quite simple. I see just a waiting move, guys. It's just how dynamic positions are played. You just get rid of the very simple idea. Just get rid. That's how dynamic chess is played. You just get rid of the back rank issue so that you have a full rook into your game and you don't have to worry about anything and don't need to calculate. So, logical move. Queen d4 losing due to this variation, and knight f5 is again the best move, which is due to that it's just saying that this variation an engine can hold it, but humanly, guys, your pieces are way too active. You have a bishop over a knight and too many weaknesses. Yes, you can't capture the pawn on d4. It's a poison pawn. Rook d6 is coming. b5 pawn is hanging, but मुझे तो यहीं पर मूव नहीं मिल रही है. But whatever, engine is saying it's holdable. Black lost the thread of the game. Rook c1, bishop g5. I like my position now, but I didn't like that I have to choose a good square for the rook. That is always unpleasant. This is always unpleasant. And uh, I was watching, I was doing this position where how do you keep your rooks, and that was a very nice position. I'm going to show you. I might show later, but in that position, the whole point, the whole task was to bring the rook into the game. And I thought many ways, but my friend Akshay found a very subtle and a very nice way to get rook into the game. Just some playing rook e1 where three or four pieces are just blocking the rook. But in the end, after some variations, there's so much double coordination and it's just so like putting the rooks is just a very big deal, you know, it's decision making, whatever. Rook f1, I chose the safest square for the rook from a human perspective, which is good, especially since I was low on time. Rook e1 is the best for engine. The point being that knight d6, h4, bishop e7, knight c6, rook f5, and rook e5. That's the point. This is why the rook is good on e1. Queen d7 only move, but now it leads to a forced, unpleasant endgame for black, which is knight e7, knight e7, rook cross b5, queen d4, queen d6, knight f5 takes, rook a5, knight e2, king h5. And this is all fold, guys. But here also white has good chances to convert rook b8, b3. White's king is safer. And here also Indian, in the video he mentioned that Indian finds a way to hold this position after f6. It's incredible. I would say it's already winning. White's king is faster, but I guess an Indian can also try to hold it. Yeah, but here white has a good chance to convert. Yeah, whatever. Only move, but not leads to more sequence. This is why the rook is good on e1. But author chose this move, which is fine, and he was low on time. Rook c8, knight d6 was again black's best. I mean, we have seen this so much time. Again, black's and probably the last chance. Knight g6, sacrificing, of course. At g6, rook a8, the best. Very impractical to play such moves. Bishop e5, why not bishop c5? अच्छा ठीक है. Bishop c5 looks more convincing to me. I don't know why. Bishop e5, bishop h6. Black has full compensation, but very difficult to evaluate. यार मुझे bishop को क्यों better लग रहा है? मुझे bishop c5 better लग रहा है. I don't know why for some reason. Obviously इंजन एनालाइज तो होगा, author का नहीं है. क्या बात कर रहे हैं? bishop c5 तो consider भी नहीं कर रहा है. Prids है. Left भी नहीं है. Prids is shit. Let's stock fish. Stock fish. भाई तो कंसिडर भी नहीं कर रहा यार। अच्छा ईफा आ रहा है, लॉल लॉल लॉल, मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? नॉट द बेस्ट टाइम टू प्ले लाइक दिस यार, क्या कर रहा हूँ? Anyways, rook c8 natural move. But here I think it is too late for active play. Queen a7, rook c2, a4, very nice move. And this is plus minus already winning. The idea being that rook b2, a5, rook a2, a6, knight d8, h4, bishop e3. Of course, I'm not going to allow mate on g2, knight f3, bishop h6, bishop e5, b4, queen e7, bishop g6, bishop d5. Queen d8 or queen cross e8 next, and black resigned. It was a nice positional game, starting with my decision on move 15, bishop a6, where it was the best chance from a practical perspective. Also, later on, there were interesting moments on where black's compensation is human and where it is injured. Nice game. Boom, 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 boom. It was four, boom, 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 boom. Boom. Nice way to see it. Run a knight c3 R. Boom, 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 boom. b5 and then knight e5. Interesting stuff. Rook c1, rook c1. Rook f1, rook e1 भी बेटर हो सकता था. But ठीक है, घर जाना भी गलत नहीं होता है guys. Temporarily the rook is on f1. It can come in at second, so don't overthink. And it's a defensive position. Boom, boom. a4 का idea मुझे तो समझ नहीं आया, to be very honest. But I guess there's too much play because a4 takes, and then e8 is very weak. B4 is coming. Though I would like to see some variations. I'm a noob, that's why I can't see it plus minus. It must be. Hmm. A file domination. बस फील हो रहा है कि क्वीन साइड में सब कुछ है तो बेटर होनी चाहिए. But humans, guys, humans tilt. His opponent tilted rook b2, a5, h4, very nice move. Bishop e3, knight f3. Bishop e5, queen e7, final finishing blow. Bishop d5, bishop d6, boom. Game was nice move. Nice game. Alright, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time. Adios, amigos.